Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theaters. Every day, people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. And now, on with the show.
My name's Jayzen Patria, and I have to admit it, I am obsessed with brands. I'm totally obsessed with brands. If you go to my house, all of my furnishings are from Jonathan Adler. If you go in my closet, half of it is from Original Penguin, and the other half is from Thomas Pink, right? And if you go into my garage, I've driven a Jeep Wrangler since I was 21 years old. So here's what I've learned about brands. They don't just work for companies and products, they actually work for us. And my biggest learning from marketers is that everything has a brand. We all have a brand. So if you're sitting here thinking like, oh, I don't really have a brand, guess what? We all have a brand. The real question is, are you choosing to actively manage that brand so that you're successful? Are you actively managing that brand? And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. But first off, let's kind of jump in. Let me hear from you guys here in the studio audience. What are some of your favorite brands? Shout them out. Let me hear them. Coach. Very good. What else? Patagonia. What else? Android. What else?
Starbucks.
Apple. Okay, tons of Apple. Raise your hand if you're an Apple fan, right? So in my backpack in the control room, I have an iPod Touch, an iPad, my iPhone's here, and sitting back at my house is my MacBook Pro, right? We're obsessed with Apple. I heard of Starbucks. Raise your hand who's obsessed with Starbucks. Okay, right, admit it. So let's think about Starbucks, because Starbucks is this crazy brand. I travel all of the time and I'm in airports and I'm shocked. People wait in line for like 30 minutes. People are like willing to almost miss their flight to get Starbucks. But the reality is that every kiosk at the airport serves coffee. So what's the difference here, right? The difference is that Starbucks appeals to us at the heart, right? They've created an experience. In fact, one of their co-founders did foreign exchange in high school and in college in Italy and across Europe, and his vision was that Starbucks should be a place where people come together with great coffee, the great smell of coffee and community. So Starbucks never kicks anyone out, right? They give you a bathroom, they give you free Wi-Fi, and they don't have employees, they have baristas, right? But here's kind of the crazy thing. How much is a cup of Starbucks coffee? It's like $5, right? And like, okay, admit it. Someone raise your hand if you get more than 3 Starbucks a day. Okay, so you're lying. People at home, they know. There's somebody in this room that goes to Starbucks 3 times a day. People are constantly complaining about the price of gas. Right now it's a little bit lower, but people complain to pay for a gallon of gas that gets your butt to work, that gets you a paycheck. But no one complains about spending $5 on a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And here's the crazy thing. Coffee is the world's oldest commodity. It's the oldest commodity that's been traded throughout history, right? So if you think back over the past century in the United States, it was a tradition that depending on what era, you either paid a nickel, dime, or a quarter for a bottomless cup of coffee in any restaurant in America. But today, we'll pay $5 and you don't get a refill. Am I right? Right? So what is Starbucks doing? That you can apply to yourself. And that's what I say is when you think of your personal brand, are you coffee, a commodity, or are you Starbucks, a premium brand? In your career, is your brand having people line up to hire you? Is your brand having people line up saying, I want you to work on this project team? Do you have people lining up to say, I'm paying you at the top of the salary range because you're premium and you're not a commodity? So we have to ask ourselves, what's a brand anyways? How would we define it? And I think the easiest way to first start thinking about it is what it's not. And this is sort of the pitfall that most people and even a lot of organizations fall into. So take a look at the screen here. So a brand, it's not a logo. It's not a tagline, it's not an advertisement, and it's not even the product. It's none of those things. Now, ideally, all of these things are informed by the brand, but in and of themselves, they're not the brand. So just going out and getting a new suit doesn't give you a new brand, right? Just writing an elevator pitch doesn't give you a new brand or changing your email signature, right? It's really, if you take a look up here, the sum of all of the experiences, all of the information, and all of the expectations that define an organization or offering for its target audience, right? It's the sum of all of those experiences. So we can turn that straight to us. In fact, if you look at that screen, it's DNA. Sometimes people are like, is that a Scantron, right? I don't even think Scantrons exist anymore, right? But it's really, the brand should be the DNA that then informs what the look, feel, and experience is of your product, and that product is brand you. So let's take a look at Nike, right? What's Nike's product? Sneakers, activewear, right? But who's a fan of Nike, right? You pay a lot for Nike stuff, right? We're talking it's like over $100 for a pair of sneakers, and we could certainly go to Payless Shoes and get sneakers for $9, right? We could certainly do that. But why do people go to Nike? What does Nike really sell? Lifestyle. What else? Quality. What else? Experience. What else? What does Nike specifically sell? Performance, athleticism, winning, overcoming obstacles, being able to do something you never thought you could do, right? That's what Nike really sells to us, and that's what resonates right here, and that's why we're willing to pay $150 for a pair of sneakers. Now, funny story, my husband runs an LGBT marketing and PR practice, so he helps brands reach the LGBT consumer. And for many years, he worked with Nike, specifically in women's fitness and reaching out to the LGBT community. And the AIDS Walk organization, right, nonprofit organizations would constantly come to him and say, like, you rep Nike, like, why is Nike not sponsoring the AIDS Walk? And my husband would be like, okay, there's no way, like, this is not their gig, they're not gonna do this. And finally he said, okay, you've pestered me enough. I have a cool lunch with them. I'll bring it up, but I'm just telling you it's gonna be no. And he came back and he said to those AIDS Walk organizations, yeah, they said no. And here's why. Because they said to me over lunch, at Nike, we run, we don't walk. We run, we don't walk, right? Because for Nike, it wasn't that it wasn't a good cause. It was that it didn't stand for the same things that Nike really stood for, right? If it was the AIDS marathon, maybe they'd want to sign up, because a marathon is about performance and athleticism and overcoming obstacles and winning and personal best and all of that. And so here's kind of another big takeaway here is it's as important what you choose to do as what you choose not to do when it comes to your brand. Great brands realize that, going back to the definition, they need to super serve a target audience. We need to super serve a target audience. Now, great brands, anyone can consume them, but we're crystal clear who we serve. So think in your career, who is it that you are trying to super serve? Because your brand, just like Nike's, needs to be relevant there, because they're looking to super serve a college athlete as she makes her way on a scholarship and wants to be an NCAA champion, right? They are with an Olympian that's going to go and win that gold medal. And even if they don't, they're going to have done the best that they've ever done in their career. So the bottom line, it's truly all about expectations. If you take a look up here, here's just kind of 4 ways that you can look at it. Know what you stand for, define who you want to be, keep up your image, and promote yourself. So let's just take a look at these really quickly. In terms of knowing yourself, here's the big thing, like where we went to school, all of those certifications, all those certificates and diplomas, that's just your ticket to play. Like, a lot of people went to your school. A lot of people have like a certificate in coding or whatever. So ultimately, it's how you operate that's really going to set you apart and be brand you, right? How you operate. So what I want you guys to think to yourself is, great brands think of adjectives and words that describe them. So think for yourself, and at home, if you're watching on the web broadcast here, take out Post-its and write some down. Write those down, because those adjectives are what people view you as. You've got some great ones, and maybe you have some ones you don't like so much, right? I might write down fun, but I also might write down perfectionist, which I don't necessarily agree with, but sometimes I hear people on my team or my clients say that. That's your opportunity to say, here's the words. How do I dissect that? How do I go backwards and say, what is it that I do that makes people think that I'm a perfectionist? Okay, well, maybe when I sent all of these notes in an email to someone, that's how they thought that I was a perfectionist. So how can I alter that into something that I would prefer it to be, right? Well, maybe I can write something really friendly at the top. Maybe I could write, consider using, as opposed to just do this, right? So you can really look and understand all of the different ways that you can drive that. So then you want to define who you want to be from that. So think of those adjectives, right? I said fun, maybe I want to be innovative. Well, I'm going to say that's pretty much just coffee. So you've got to supersize those adjectives, right? They need to be really big because you know what? Those are just commodity words. You've got to supersize them and make them wow. Or maybe even better yet, you've got to make them a superhero. What's that superpower that makes it? So take a look. When I define for myself, these might be adjectives, but I'm going to supersize them because when I walk around, I think I'm a storyteller. You know what? I'm Hollywood. I'm a showman. I'm a first mover. I'm a super connector, right? Those are words that say I'm more Starbucks than I am coffee. And you can do that as well. Now, here's the big thing. Think about that. Once you've got these words, you can create a whole mission, right? At Walmart, Walmart's a great brand. They're the largest retailer. They know exactly what their mission is. Their mission is to give you the cheapest price that you will find anywhere in the United States. And they stay core to that. So what do I think for myself? I work in human resources. I walk around and tell myself all day long, I'm the non-HR HR guy. I'm the cool HR guy. So if you think HR is the DMV, I'm not that. That's what I think all day long, right? So you can create your own notion of what that is. And then ultimately, you've got to go and keep up your image, right? So once you've defined that, keep up your image and create the packaging. So here's just a fun thing. #1 food show on cable. What network's it on? Take that wild guess. Top Chef. And it's Bravo. I heard Food Network. What's the problem with that? Bravo is not a food channel. Bravo is not even a home and garden channel, yet they have for over 10 years the #1 food show on cable. Why is that? They know their table stakes is they've got to have a great TV show. But at Bravo, they say, hey, we need LGBT characters represented. It needs to be high-end, sophisticated places. So they can actually take the genre of food and push it through and get Top Chef. So think about that for you. How are you packaging yourself? What's your dress, right? So you can see I dress in all of my stuff. I've got fun little cufflinks. I'm wearing crazy glasses. I spend a fortune having some crazy hipster hair. But why? Because I said I was the non-HR guy. I've got crazy socks on, right? Because that says I'm not the DMV, right? I do all of these things. I wear funky glasses, right? And that's just part of the packaging, but dress only goes so far. It's how do you present an idea? How do you maintain that workspace? Does it say all of those things? When someone walks into my office, is it filthy or is it filled with cool things that say Hollywood, showman, first mover, and has pieces of technology that people want to come in and play with, right? That's how you package yourself. And then ultimately it's the projects you work on, how do you put them through that filter so they come out being uniquely your brand? I want every project I work on to say that was uniquely Jayzen Patria. And then finally, you've got to promote yourself, and this is what we all forget. Great brands spend a fortune on marketing and PR, and so you should too. At minimum, you need to make that plan. Your version of advertising, what do you say about yourself? Every time you're on that conference call and you're like, hi, it's Jayzen from Los Angeles. Is that the way that you want to show up? Is that marketing your brand, right? Would Coke and McDonald's and Coach ever say something like that? And no, you control that message. Think about your advertising is happening all of the time. Think about that endorsement. Who endorses you? Who is talking about you and connecting you to other people because your brand seems like a match for that project or that initiative that they're working on. And finally, the hardest one, it's that word of mouth. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's what people say about you who've never even met you. And the only way you can control that is by showing up and being on brand all of the time. So here's my final challenge to you guys. Are you gonna be a commodity of coffee? Or are you guys gonna be a premium Comcast NBC Universal employee that we think of as Starbucks? Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.